The following announcement has been paid for by Journey into Wrestling. Things seem to be changing around here, and I'm talking podcasts, brother.
Journey into Comics Network and no JIW? Where's the wrestling?
That's just it, brah. We're making a comeback. JIW is taking over.
Butt stuff, podcastrophe, the poor rapport, all these new guys on the scene. We're about to show them what podcasting is all about, Chico.
Why don't you tell them when they can hear us, Nate?
Every other Wednesday, right here on the Journey into Wrestling Network.
Anything less is just too civilized. New world order. The following is a Journey into Comics Network production.
I'm a dude who likes brews. It's time for Brews with Dudes. Ah, juicy. Hello, good afternoon, good evening, good morning. It's time for episode 7 of Brews with Dudes. I'm your host, Nick Maxon. I'm joined once again by Austin Hill. How are you doing, Austin?
I'm doing quite awesome.
I'm also joined once again by Creed. How's it going, Creed?
What's up, man?
Good. It's going great. And this is going to be a super special episode because it will be our first one with a dudette on the panel. So let's give a warm welcome to Jess Wadley for joining us. How are you doing tonight, Jess?
I am doing fantastic.
Good to hear. So let's not waste any time. Austin, you brought this first beer. Did you want to give us a rundown of what we're drinking?
This one we're drinking is one I haven't had before by a brewery I have not heard of before. It's a Central State brewery here in Indianapolis, Indiana. Well, from Indianapolis, Indiana, since we are not there. It's called Evicted. It's a farmhouse blonde ale with a ABV of 4%. I'm not able to find the IBUs, but on a quick synopsis it has on the side of the can here, it says, sometimes things don't work out as you planned, and you have to come up with a plan B. This is a beer for those times, and all other times you need to think on your feet. Featuring a heavy dose of rye malt and fermented with a blend of farmhouse yeast strains, this beer is complex yet crushable.
Crushable, meaning it goes down easy, I would assume. This is only 4%. It's really light looking. You guys ready to dive in? Let's get going on this.
Do it.
Goes down very easy. It's very light.
Why does it taste like a hint of pineapple?
I don't know. It's got. I'm trying to think of. It tastes like one of those beers that are mass produced. I can't really put my finger on it.
Well, no, it does say it's a Midwest exotic with looks like a corn cob and a palm tree. I don't know, that's kind of strange imagery, but a Midwest exotic does kind of...
To call it exotic is baffling, because this tastes very commercial to me. Maybe in the world of beer, that's what exotic means, but I'm not calling this exotic. That's not what I would say. No offense. I'm digging the beer. It's very light. It's easy to go down. I could definitely drink a couple of these. I might pick this up over a Bud Light or a Budweiser.
It's definitely crisp, and it has a sweetness to it that's not overpowering.
What are you thinking about it, Jess?
I think it's pretty light, but it also doesn't have a lot of crazy flavor to it.
It is probably, in terms of IBUs, just a flat 0. It's not bitter at all.
No.
I would give this maybe the 10 to 20 range, like a 14 or 16.
I mean, it definitely does go down easy, and it is less... It's just not very flavorful, and that's kind of what I like when I try beer, is the flavor.
It's a good beer, but after 2 of them, I won't have no more than 2 in a row.
It's pretty light. What does a Hamm's or a PBR or a Bud Light, what does that come in ABV wise? Anyone know?
Never had a Hamm's.
You've never had a Hamm's? Are you born and raised Indiana, or are you just here?
From Chicago.
Dude, there's no... How on earth have you never heard of a Hamm's then?
211.
Okay.
I would definitely put this at that. If you're drinking good craft beers and you're trying several, this would definitely be a beer to drink in between as a palate cleansing beer, but not to put it down as a bad beer. It is a crisp, tasty beer for a lightness to go in between something heavy.
This is what I've always described as something Grandpa would drink. I've described a couple beers like that. Lower ABV, not too hoppy, not too bitter. It's it's easy to go down. This is something when we, as a guy who's been brewing for a couple years, trying to get the whole family on board. That's always the thing that my grandpas complain about. They're like, this is just, there's too much, it's too bitter, it's too much hops. Like, can't you just make something that tastes like Bud Light? I'm like, I don't really want to, Grandpa, but who sells the most beer, Like, this is definitely something that I think a lot of people could get behind.
Drinking more of this, it makes me think of a more of a German-style beer, the Hefeweizen. It tastes like a very light Hefeweizen.
An extremely tiny sour at the very end.
Yeah.
Not anything that makes you... it's just very, very slight.
Yeah, it's more at the end. It doesn't have that upfront sharpness with that little bit of sour to it like a Hefeweizen would, but it's got that feel while I'm drinking it.
So, Jess, welcome to Brews with Dudes. I'm happy to have you on. It's you've seen us do quite a few of these episodes. I know you don't normally drink craft beers, but you're pretty supportive of all the things I do. So when you see me try, you try too usually. What are your favorite kinds of beers? How many different beers have you tried? What kind of beers are you wanting to try, you think?
I like, probably I would say sours are my favorite. I've had a lot of good sours. My favorite was probably the watermelon sour that I had. And then I also had a raspberry one that was really good at Upland, I believe it was.
Yeah, when we went to Upland, I think we've already brought this up a couple times, but we got those 2 different platters, and we got probably 15 to 16 different sours, and they were all different flavors, and it really opened my eyes to the fact that, like, yeah, you think that it all just tastes like a Warhead, but have yourself an apricot sour, and then have yourself a raspberry sour, and then follow that up with a tangerine, and you very quickly are able to distinguish the different flavors.
Yeah.
I would probably say that I like sours the most because I like fruity beers. I really like sours because they do have that little bit of a bite after them, the tartness, and that I love that. I also really like dark beers like stouts and porters. My favorite porter I would probably say is the vanilla from 18th Street. And I haven't had that one in so long, and it makes me so sad, but that was the one that I had tried first out of all dark beers that I was like, holy shit, I am missing out on a whole different world.
That was seriously a magical beer. I remember when we had that. That was part of the Hunter series from 18th Street. I feel like I told you about this, that beer celebration that we're going to, Austin and I, in a couple weeks at 18th Street. I believe one of their special releases is another vanilla, or like a vanilla coffee. So I'm gonna...
Oh no.
I'm going to fill up the trunk with as much of it as I can because we were so sad when we couldn't find that anymore.
I am very excited for that trip. We're hitting another brewery that day as well.
I don't think on Brews with Dudes we have talked about this yet. And you want to hear something awesome? I'm pretty sure, this being episode 7, this is going to air on December 9th, if I'm not mistaken. So we're going to be doing this awesome trip that Austin's getting ready to tell you about today. So you're going to be listening to this as we're in the middle of it. So what all are we doing that day, Austin?
We are driving up to Founders, correct?
Yep, up in Michigan.
Up in Michigan. We're heading up to Michigan to Founders, and they're having a special release party.
The CBS, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, someone might laugh at me, Canadian Breakfast Stout, I believe that's what it stands for.
I can't remember off the top of my head, but I feel like that is correct.
They've got, if I'm not mistaken, they have been aging these beers in maple syrup barrels.
Oh my god!
For years.
That sounds so good.
Yes, I think it was a 5-year age on these beers, and we're heading up there. We're starting off our morning with Founders in Michigan for this maple syrup barrel-aged beer. And then we're going to head up there to get that, to partake in that festival and buy our barrel-aged maple syrup beer. And then we're going to take off down to Hammond, Indiana, to 18th Street Brewery's 4-year anniversary party, where we're going to be able to partake in more specially craft beers released for their birthday celebration. And there's going to be several bands playing as well. One of Nick and I's favorite bands, Druid, which we were actually able to catch at this year's Barrel Massacre release party that they put on earlier, which we got a bunch of very tasty barrel-aged special release just for that day beers. We actually got several, I think there was 5 of them. We talked about it in a previous episode, I believe, but one of them in which that I was very happy about was a Russian Imperial Stout that wasn't barrel-aged, or it was, but it was recommended not to be aged, so we broke it open real quick and was just delicious.
That sounds awesome. It sounds like you guys are going to have a full weekend of fun. I'm very jealous that I'm not getting to go, but I know you'll have fun.
My only regret is that I'm driving, so I have to just sample lightly.
Damn. Yeah, that definitely sucks.
So I have to just take these little samples and keep myself uninebriated so I can ensure that we have a very safe travels throughout our weekend and make sure we end up we'll end up in Fort Wayne that night for a very awesome concert by the one and only Steel Panther.
Oh my gosh.
And if you have not heard of Steel Panther, I highly suggest pulling up YouTube in another window or on your computer or whatever your device you're using to listen to this podcast with, and checking out several of their YouTube videos and some of their live feeds. These guys are a very entertaining and quite funny 90s-esque hair metal band.
It is definitely going to be a very full day. I'm very excited for it. We are ready to move on to beer number 2. I'm very, very excited about this. When I first started getting into beers, I remember my Uncle Jeff, who was on the show last week, Jeff Gagan, he introduced me to Sam Adams Cherry Wheat. And shortly after that, I eventually got my way to Bell's Two Hearted, and I really, really loved the Two Hearted. It's still one of my go-tos. And now, today, I went to the liquor store, and I was I met with the best of both worlds. And I am sitting here with a cherry stout from Bell's. So we are getting ready to dive full on into this. I'm very excited for it. Creed looks like he is tormented by it. What do you got to say about this, Creed?
Dark chocolate.
Oh, shoot.
You specifically asked for no dark chocolate.
Dark chocolate.
Creed, why would you have a problem with dark chocolate?
I hate dark chocolate.
You're going to drink it, and if you don't like it, you can give it to one of us. Now let's lift our glasses high, say a cheers, and drink this delicious beer.
Oh, shit.
Salud.
Spilled mine everywhere. Oh, my holy shit.
Ooh.
This is so good.
Wow.
Let us hear it, Creed.
I don't think he likes it.
That
I don't
looks
like it.
That looks like the face of a 2 out of 10.
It definitely tastes. You can taste the dark chocolate in there, though.
That looks like a,
God.
I think he
That's
needs
horrible.
some water.
While Creed is over there dying, I'll go ahead and read the description on the back of the bottle here. Ruby Black. This stout's signature tartness comes from cherries grown in Michigan's Traverse City region. Warm, dark chocolate notes come together with the cherries in a mysterious dance to create one of the cornerstones of the Bell's Stout portfolio. I must agree, this is fantastic. Bravo, Bells.
he looks and sounds like the way I felt on a previous episode I did with you guys.
I will definitely admit that this is a very strong beer.
This is definitely strong, but
It's very, very smooth.
let me take another drink so I have a very forward memory of this flavor.
It definitely tastes like a chocolate stout, but you're hit with the tartness, the sweetness of the cherries. It's really a double whammy. It hits you twice.
I almost want to say it's more of a like a black cherry on top of this dark chocolate, just because how deep the cherry flavor is, and it's more of a tart bitterness instead of a sweetness that really pushes through at the end for the cherry flavor.
I like cherry drinks. I could not taste no cherry in that.
The first thing that I thought when I took a drink was this tastes like a chocolate-covered cherry.
No.
I think you're just focusing way too much on the dark chocolate.
I can't even taste the cherry. I'm dead serious. I can't. Like, I don't like the cherry. Actually, I like the flavor of the cherry.
So you didn't get the tartness at the end.
I taste the dark chocolate. I get a hint of cherry.
Now, if I may, did you slam it, or did you give it a second to sit in your mouth?
The first one, mouthwash.
You let it sit around
You
for a
didn't see
sec?
my face. I was like,
No, I heard you dying.
this one I just downed.
You
The last of it, I
you took a
downed.
critical hit, man. You went down to the red in that one.
That one I just downed the rest of it. The first one was like a
What a waste.
shuffle.
good.
It was like me just like mouthwash. That I couldn't handle that.
Somebody rolled a natural 20 on his mouth.
I feel like this was a natural 20. That was a natural 1 for him, I think.
Hell, that's 0.
Yeah, natural 1. He went to attack that beer with his mouth, rolled a 1, and
And it went up his ass.
he went face into a rock full of nothing.
You got cornered by Harvey Weinstein. That's what happened with that one.
That was worse than the other time. The last one.
Okay. I like doing this. I like ranking the beers on the show. So what beer are you referring to?
The other dark chocolate one from the last one we had.
Just the last one we did?
Yeah.
What was the dark...
I can't tell you, I did not partake in that one.
So sorry.
It's crazy. We've been drinking, 5 to 8 new beers a week for the past couple months.
The reason why I say that one was bad, the one we did in the other show was bad because
The chocolate porter.
I gave that one away. I couldn't do it.
Yeah, you weren't about that one. That was the chocolate porter. It was Shake chocolate porter from Boulder beer, I think it was.
It was horrible.
That sounds good.
It tasted a little flat, to be honest.
Oh, I think I tried a little bit of that one.
His face and reaction really reminded me of the way I felt and reacted when I was drinking that Saga IPA.
You weren't about the Saga?
No, not at all.
That's the one you're talking about.
But his face and reaction reminded me of that Saga IPA that our friend Zach brought with.
His reaction reminded me of my reaction to Ridiculous. I was like, ugh. Oh, it was just... that bad boy was deep. I couldn't do it. I think that was a Founders. Yeah, Ridiculous was Founders. It was just too bitter for me.
I can't remember what Saga was.
It's an IPA.
It was a Saga IPA, but I can't remember the brewery.
I enjoyed the Saga. I really did.
Yeah, the Saga wasn't too bad. What's sad is I just went over all of it today. I told Austin this. I guess everybody else will think this is cool. Right now, we're only represented on the internet on Facebook. If you go to our Facebook and you go to our About section, in our story, we have we've got a history of every episode with the guests that were on it and the beers we drank. So if you hear us sitting here talking about it and you're like, I don't know what they're talking about, you can go look at what beers we're talking about. We tell you the brewing company and the name of the beer. So I'm going to try to keep that updated as much as I can so you can keep up with the beers if you'd like. That being said, I'm ready to finish off this beer and move on to the next one. What do you guys think?
I think it's good.
This is definitely, because it is a stout, and I was talking about the Sam Adams cherry wheat, and it just says it in the name, the wheat. So this was definitely way stronger than what I was expecting, but I'm really digging it. I will probably keep those hiding in the fridge for another couple weeks. Maybe try to save them for Christmas, which is just around the corner.
This sounds like a perfect Christmas beer.
Yeah, definitely.
Hell no.
Especially with the dark chocolate and the cherries to it. Like, one of the things that I get my mom every year for Christmas is maraschino cherries covered in chocolate. So I feel like she would even enjoy this just because it does have such a nice dark chocolate flavor. It's
like a treat, at the end of the day, if you're just with a buddy, not at the end of the day, if you're just drinking a beer with a buddy, you're probably going to get awesome, like an IPA or something, just something 5 to 7, something easy enough. But something like this is something when your cousin or your uncle or your brother from out of town comes in, you're like, dude, let's sling back this one beer, just, it's like a dessert. It's like a treat,
Oh, yes. It's not one you want to just like, hey, man, let's get a 6-pack and split it. It's no, hey, we just got done with dinner. We're relaxed for a little bit. We're about to have some, like, Christmas bark and whatever kind of dessert you're going to do.
Oh, dude, Christmas bark with some of this? Now that sounds like a fucking
that's what I was thinking, just
Christmas
like some Christmas bark with... Everybody makes it different, so I don't want to go too much into ingredients. I want to leave it to your imagination. But some Christmas bark, sitting back on your couch or your lazy boy recliner, just relaxing. You got the fire going. Maybe you got, like... one of those iconic Christmas movies going on the TV just in the background while you're just enjoying conversation with family and you have this beer in your hand.
What's your iconic Christmas movie?
I feel like this would be really good with, like, pretzels, maybe chocolate-covered ones, too, because you'd have that little bit of saltiness to the pretzels that would help increase the dark chocolate sweetness.
I put pretzels in my Christmas bark. I use like a dark chocolate with milk chocolate, a little bit of candy cane sprinkle, and some pretzels.
Use the pretzels that look like the little quilts, like the grid. You doing okay, Jess? That one?
Yeah, I just drank a lot at once.
Bottom of the barrel on that?
Yeah.
No,
mine is me over a little bit.
Mine's a Christmas story with I think I'm saying that right. It's my favorite Christmas movie, but I can never remember the name of it right away. All I think of is Ralphie getting his eye shot out by the rifle.
Putting the tongue on the pole?
Yeah, putting your tongue on the pole. Yep.
Christmas story, right?
Yeah.
Christmas story.
The leg, the fishnet leg.
It's a major reward. It's a major reward, yeah.
The weird thing, like, one of my earliest memories... it's very vague, but I remember sitting in front of the television watching Ghostbusters, and my brother runs across in front of me. That's one of my earliest memories ever. Ghostbusters. I couldn't tell you one single detail about the movie Ghostbusters. I've never watched it since. And Christmas Story is another movie that I couldn't tell you what the movie is about. I have no idea what the movie's about. But I know about the leg with the fishnets. I know about the dude putting his tongue on the pole. Like, I remember watching it enough to remember those iconic details, but I don't have any I think it was last year I finally discovered that it was the Christmas Story that I've been thinking about all these years.
And the bloodhounds from the neighbor's house coming in and ruining Christmas dinner.
I don't even remember that from I'm on the same page as Nick. I don't know any of the details of it besides you'll shoot your eye out.
The little brother in the fucking snowsuit.
I remember that.
Oh, I remember that too, yeah.
So, Jess, you're all about celebrating the holidays, Halloween, Christmas, all of them. What is your iconic Christmas movie?
White Christmas is mine. It's my favorite. I watch it every year. I've got to watch it every year. And my mom knows this too because she's the one who started this. But that's my favorite. I know all the songs by heart. I should be ashamed, but I'm not.
I'm very weird in the way that there's not really, even with Halloween, like, it's not like Christmas comes around, gotta watch this movie. Halloween comes around, gotta watch this movie.
Watch Hocus Pocus.
And I know that Jess is like that. Jess is very much into, when it's this time of year, you watch these movies. It's a tradition kind of thing. And I just don't think my family ever really gave a fuck about that kind of shit. Not to say that I don't understand it, because I'm very traditional myself. I've got the weird things that I do to celebrate, but watching movies on holidays was never really one of them for me.
Now it is, though.
Now it is. Jess has kind of pushed it on me.
Boom.
I think Austin is over there getting us ready for beer number 3 is what we're on next, I believe.
Yeah, I believe so.
This one.
I think Austin would be very happy to explain once he sets the cups down. It's an all black can. I wonder what it could be.
Nice can.
Austin, give us the skinny.
Very nice can.
We have Lazarite it's a collaboration of War Pigs, Three Floyds, and McKellar. It is an Indian Pale Ale. And the description here says, a bright and juicy War Pigs IPA forged in collaboration between Three Floyds and McKellar. I cheated and had one of these beforehand, and I am excited to share this with you listeners today.
It's a nice golden color. I'm not a huge fan of IPAs, so I'm interested to see how I like this one. It's described as juicy, like most IPAs. So
I'm just admired by this can. This can got a lot of good detail to it.
Yeah, I feel like Three Floyds is pretty good with their artwork on their bottles and their cans and everything. This one's pretty badass like a boar? Looking. It's like a horse skeleton or something.
My take on this looks like
Oh, that's definitely not a horse now that it's closer to me.
It looks like a pig. Like a pig straddled for war with a winged demon on its back.
It's a buffalo.
That is not a buffalo.
Buffaloes don't have tusks, my friend.
Oh, those are reins. I thought those were horns.
No,
that's a boar. Yeah, that's a boar.
Yeah.
A pig for war.
No more war pigs have the power. We won't do that again. I've only done it twice. This is 7 episodes. It's the only time I've ever jumped into the mic like that. Bear with us, everyone. You guys ready to jump into the Lazarite? Am I saying that right?
Maybe. Lazarite.
Yeah, close enough.
Lazarite.
Close enough.
Yeah. Maybe.
Hey, yo, Mikey.
Here we go.
Alright. Hoping I like this one.
Juicy.
Ooh.
Nah.
That pulled straight through that cherry stout I had. I still had some cherry stout, but it was able to pull through. a very like fruity, juicy, just straight stream, and took over my palate from that stout, which is quite commendable because most stouts just take over your palate and hold on through the next few drinks you have, and this is
How I say it though. How I say it is, if you have cotton mouth, drink one of them.
Agreed. It's definitely very juicy. It'll definitely rehydrate the mouth.
So, Nick, where would you put this on your juicy scale?
On my juicy scale, let me give it one more go. Let me give it one more gulp.
Sounded like a sip.
Juicy.
Sounded more like a sip to me.
I would say 7.5. It's pretty juicy. I'm pleased with the juiciness of this one.
If I were to put a number on a juicy scale, since I know that's your thing and I have not done that.
I want to make it a Brews with Dudes thing. Everyone's allowed to use the juicy scale.
I would put it at a solid 8. I almost would push it a little further, but 8 seems like a very solid feel for it.
I might not appreciate it if you put the evil on me, but I'm going to put it on you. Do you have a kind of top-tier juicy beer? I don't know if I could think of mine, but can you think of the juiciest beer you've ever had?
The juiciest beer I've ever had. I can, as soon as you asked me that question, my taste buds lit up with memory. But the beer I was drinking, I cannot remember.
You know what this is not much of an answer, so fuck me. But I would say when I hear juicy, I immediately go to 18th Street, 450 North Brewery, and Odd 13. I know it's really hard to talk about Odd 13 because not a lot of people around here have had it. And I wouldn't have it if I didn't have friends that went out to Colorado for big beer festivals and are always bringing them back for me. God bless you, Tex. So Odd 13, just every beer I've had from them is top scale, 9 out of 10 juiciness. 18th Street, you know, the Sex and Candy, Candy Crusher, Cascade Express. They are. It's like that's their goal. Their goal is juice, and they're killing it. And then 450.
Yes.
You've had a couple from 450.
Yes, I've had quite a few from 450.
The Squirt Gun, the Juicy Nugs. I know we both keep just fucking crying. The Grape Jam, the Fruity Nuggets, the Juicy Nuggets.
That were just...
There's a Grape Jam?
Yeah, it's called Grape Jam, and it looks like Space Jam with the marketing. And I assume it's a grapey, juicy IPA. They're killing it. They're really good at it.
Oh yeah, we've both been discussing before how much we're dying to get down there to get some of those brews because they're based mostly out of the brewery. We can only get those if we go to the brewery, and it's
like a 2.5 hour drive. I think it's a move. Like it would have to be. We have to call them in the morning, and they have to say like, we've got 4 out of the 5 beers you love, and to make the trip because it's a long trip, but the beers are so good.
Because that's 5 hours of driving and at least 2 hours of sitting there, eating and having a pint and a few samples.
Yeah, we never got around to eating there because they had the festival, which was right in their backyard, and it was, I don't know, hundreds if not thousands of people. And when we went in to the restaurant to I think pee. And I think we were going to eat there. I think we were going to eat if we could have, but it was just packed to the gills. It was.
Oh yeah.
It was a cool spot. I'd love to go back to 450. Maybe we can tag 450 in this, and they'll let us come out there and do a special episode. We love you, 450.
But you bringing up your friends that have made it out west, I have to bring up one of my best friends who is probably the main proprietor in my craft brew journey and who got me into craft brewing. Like, I've had friends that have introduced me to it, but he's the one that mainly got it. I have to shout out my buddy Mike Stout. I believe he's a follower of this podcast.
His last name is Stout?
His name is Michael Stout.
Christ.
You need to get a stout on the show.
I've been working with him to get him to come back here because
Mr. Stout himself is with us today.
I would love that. But he lives out in Portland, Oregon now, and when I went out there last year for the 4th of July, he brought me around Portland and showed me that, but he also brought me around to places that had a bunch of craft brews and beers and stuff, and that I know is where I tasted my juiciest beer. I cannot remember my juiciest beer because I had been drinking so many.
Were you conscious about your journey then, if I may? Because, I mean, I'm brewing myself, doing a podcast now about brewing, trying to dive headfirst into brewing. Like, when when I'm picking out a beer or when we're talking about doing this podcast, there's a lot of thought that goes into it all. At that point in your journey, were you thinking about craft beer, or was it like, oh, I'm at this place and they've got their own beer, I'm going to try it. Oh, that was good. No second thoughts kind of thing?
It was a lot of it. I want to say at that point, I started that way because he was like, oh, no, you need to come here, try this beer. They have these beers here you need to try. Hey, you need to come over here. And it was probably the third spot we stopped as we just rode bikes around the city and got there. And so I had a solid beer buzz going by the time I got there. And it was one, even with my beer buzz and because kind of just taking in this whole new city, really stood forward with me.
When I was considering moving years ago, I did a lot of research into all the different aspects of a couple different cities, and a couple members of my family, we all kind of unanimously agreed that Seattle is the place. If there was ever a place I was going to move inside the United States, that Seattle seems to be the one place I would really like to go.
It's just over the bridge from Portland.
And my good buddy Colby's out there. I'd love to hang out with him more. Speaking of beer journeys, I keep mentioning the blog that we're working on. I'll just say it's coming. I'm sorry about it. We've been very, very busy with a lot of different things. The beer blog, I'm the one that's kind of organizing it and writing the written blurbs, but Jess actually is the one taking all the pictures for it, which is kind of what I'm the part I'm most excited about. I like to think that the thing that'll make it stand out the most is the fact that along with these reviews somewhat of these different breweries, that Jess is providing pictures of the beers, the bar, the establishment. It's doing a full-blown review that encourages checking out the whole place and enjoying an entire experience. It's not just beer. It's the beer. It's the people. It's the food. It's the establishment. It's the whole thing. And Jess, you've been into photography for a long time. Did you want to go on that for a minute before telling why you're excited to be providing the photos for... we haven't really decided on a name. I think I've gone with Brews Across Indiana. As we're trying to make our journey across all of Indiana and go to every single one of their breweries. That being said, there's 150 breweries in Indiana, and there's only 52 weeks in a year. So, we're working. It's been a little stagnant lately, but we're really trying to go, and we want to check out every single brewery in the area and pay as much homage to the Hoosier brews as we can. I'm rambling a lot, Jess. What do you think about Brews Across Indiana? Are you having fun with it so far?
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. One of the things that I've always wanted to do is travel, so being able to travel all around Indiana has been a lot of fun, especially doing it with Nick, because he is a lot of fun, and he does definitely know his shit about beer, so it's nice to go in and hear his opinions on everything, and I do have a lot of fun taking the pictures. What's going on?
Just making jokes. You're too nice. You're really nice.
Very nice.
I'm sorry. I can say mean things
enough.
if you want.
Please don't. Please don't say mean things. Austin, you stop with the hand gestures.
I'm just enjoying this beer.
So we've gone to, what's it been? It's been 3 now. We've gone to 3 different places. We've drank at least half of their beers. We try to get the flights. We try to drink as many samples of their beer as we can. We get some of their food. And then we walk around and take pictures of the whole establishment. We started with Half Moon.
Yeah, that was my favorite place for food, definitely.
In Kokomo. So we went to Half Moon in Kokomo. And then second was St. Joseph's?
Yeah, that sounds right.
St. Joseph's in Indianapolis, an old converted church.
That place was super, super cool inside.
And my personal favorite so far, we just went to Big Lug Canteen. And, oh my goodness, the establishment was beautiful. Multi-story. They had a patio.
I was fortunate enough to be able to make that trip.
Yeah. Another thing, like when we go and explore these breweries, we like to bring friends with us and make it a whole experience. And so yeah, Austin, how about you go about that for a minute? You went to Big Lug Canteen in Indianapolis.
Yeah, that was a very actually fortunate trip. I ended up having a short day at work, and because so, I decided to get a hold of Nick because I knew he was mostly free that day. I did not know or was aware of his planned trip to the brewery, but I got a hold of him and let him know that, hey, I'm off early. Let's see what we can do today. Maybe we can make a promo video for the Doom Room, which he is the lead man for, and he notified me that him and Jess were planning on making a brewery trip, and I was welcome to come along, so I joined with. We got down there. As soon as we stepped inside, I was immediately impressed with how clean and organized and well presented the brewery was. But I do have to bring up the humor we had with each other about the brewery. They didn't actually have like flights, like sample flights of all of their beers, like select ones. So they were just like, well, we give free samples, but we also do, what was it? We sell 2 ounce pours of all our beers. So I ordered a 2 ounce pour of every beer they had on tap that day. And then the look from our bartender's face said more than what we needed to know, that it was about to be a long day for him.
Yeah, because it was like 10 or 11 beers that they had. And so Nick ordered all of them first, or was it you?
I ordered them first because I even apologized. I was like, I'm sorry. I am one of those people that really enjoys beer, and I haven't been here before, so I want to try everything. But I don't want to be that guy that says, give me a sample of everything because you get free samples. So I wanted to at least pay for everything and have a solid sampler of everything to where I wasn't just taking a sip and being done. So I went ahead and paid for 2 ounces of everything.
And then Nick ordered the same thing, and then Steven ordered the same thing. So then he brought 30 plus 2 ounce samples, or 4 ounce, I'm not sure what they were.
2 ounce samples, yes.
To the table, and he was like, great.
They were absolutely not prepared for such a thing. It was kind of weird.
Yeah, like, we ordered that, and they immediately were like, are you gonna order food? And then we ordered food, and it seemed like they lightened up a bit. Okay, they're gonna be here a while. They're gonna order food, and then they're gonna sit here and just sip beer. They looked at us like we were kind of like these, like, pompous hipster assholes.
I get that more often than I'd like. But guess what? I'm willing to admit that the only negative side of the whole thing was the service. It took way too long to get everything done. But Dude, beer, top notch. Food, top notch. Establishment, top notch. I guess that's Nick's list. There's 4 things. There's 4 things you got to do. You know, food, beer, establishment, service.
Mine is beer, food, establishment, service. So it's more like 5 things. So it's beer, food, establishment, beer, service.
You're drunk. You keep saying the same thing again, and you said beer twice.
I like beer.
So I would have to say that I think that the waiter that we had, the guy who waited on us, was extremely friendly. But yeah, the speed of the service was not what you would want if you were going somewhere, especially out of town.
And we were in Indianapolis trying to get back home to Lafayette, an hour away, to pick our son up off the bus. And it was like, dude, when I say we need to go, I mean, like, we need to go. Like, we got somewhere to be. And he just did not get it.
He wanted to tell us goodbye like 25 times and make sure that he gave us a couple goodbye kisses as well.
We'll get back to talking about the sweet kisses that he gave us after we start diving into this last beer. I kind of forgot about it when we were talking about it earlier, but the final beer of the night is actually from Odd 13, one of my favorite breweries, but it's not one of their juicy IPAs. This is going to be, it's called the Hawaiian Bartender. It is a kettle sour with mango and pineapple. I'll go ahead and give you a quick... First of all, it's in a town called Lafayette, Colorado. So it's like a sister city, you know?
Cousins.
What it says on the back. Hawaiian Bartender is a kettle sour with mango and pineapple added. Fermentation with Brettanomyces and dry hopping with Centennial contribute additional fruity flavors and aromatics. What the fuck was that word? Brettanomyces? Brettanomyces? What the fuck is that word?
I don't know what that word is, but I need to, if you don't mind, interject real quick. When you say a kettle sour, that is different than a barrel sour. So for those of you who are unaware, most sours take a barrel age of at least 2 years to prep and brew, but a kettle sour can be turned around and ready to go in a matter of a week, 12 days. So a kettle sour is something that is not as common. It's more of a Belgian style of souring. If you were to go over there and take a Belgian style sour, they do it in a kettle. So it's a very quick turnover. So it's a very quick brew compared to a normal beer brew, other than the traditional sour that would be aged 2 years plus in a barrel.
Interesting.
I will pull back the veil a little bit about the whole facade here and admit that I already knew that Jess liked sours, and that's why we're drinking this sour tonight. When Tex, God bless you, came back a couple weeks ago, he brought about 4 or 5 different Odd 13 brews, mostly IPAs, those juicy bastards I spoke of, and I smashed right through them. This is the last one, and I was very excited to see that it was a sour, and I'm very excited to be drinking this tonight with you, Jess, on your first episode of Brews with Dudes.
Why does it
Thank
smell like
you very
Why does it
much.
smell like a sour beer?
It's a sour. Get down on it.
Get down on it.
Ooh. Goodness. Ooh.
Yeah.
That is that back end is
It's tight.
Oh, that pull through. That flavor that just pulls you straight through the front, middle, and end. Oh.
Are we talking about beer right now? Or?
we are. I think we are, but I'm on another planet. I feel like I've already closed my eyes for the night, and I'm drifting off.
Are you riding the waves with the Hawaiian Bartender?
I think the milk truck has arrived. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying.
This Hawaiian bartender.
I'm sure you can enjoy.
This Hawaiian bartender has taken me to Pleasure Town.
Did you just say that this is taking you to Flavor Town?
Yes.
Flavor Town. Sorry, I
You
misspoke.
said pleasure, didn't you?
Yeah.
Would you calm yourself?
We all said what we said. All right. So we've got it in our mouths, and now we're sitting here staring at the 4 beers we drank tonight, as is per tradition. We're going to go around the circle, and we're going to let everybody tell us what they thought was their favorite beer of the night. If you feel so inclined, you can also tell us about your second favorite or your least favorite. Creed, did you want to go ahead and start us off? Tell us what you thought your favorite beer was.
I say the Lazarite would be 1, and then the Evicted would be 2nd.
Oh yeah. So you're not about the extremes. We had the 2 that were in the middle. We had dark and sour, and then those bad boys.
I'm not a sour fan, but I'll drink the sour over the cherry, because that was horrible. But the
we could tell from your reaction.
That was horrible.
You were not doing...
was comical.
You were not doing good on the stout.
I wish I had a Snapchat filter for that reaction.
So
the same goes for you when you had that saga on. Come on now.
Austin, it's your turn. You're not dodging it this time. Give us your favorite. What do you think of these 4?
My favorite? My favorite actually has to be this cherry stout by Bell's.
Hell yeah, dude.
That brought me to this childhood memory of just sweet Christmas delicious. And since Christmas is, as we're recording this, just a month away, it just makes me feel like there. I don't know. I cannot put one at a solid end. I have to go cherry stout, and everything else is tied for second because everything was good today.
Everything killed. I would definitely agree with that. I'm going to go ahead and it's real hard. There's just, I feel like there were the Lazarite and the Evicted were kind of right in the middle, and then we had the stout, which was just dark, and then we had the sour, which was other end of the spectrum. I love the Lazarite. The Lazarite is like right up my alley for kind of I could drink 3 or 4 of these. Cherry stout is just perfect. It's like I just love that flavor. I'm gonna go ahead and overall, if I'm stuck on a desert island, I can only take one of these with me. I'm gonna give it to the cherry stout. The cherry stout is one of the better dark beers that I've had. But it was, I already said it once, it goes in dark. You can tell it's dark and smooth, but at the end it's sweet. It's kind of tart. And then I'm going to steal, I think, Austin's thunder. Like, everything else is straight tied. Like, the Odd 13, if the Odd 13 was one of the IPAs, it probably would have won hands down. Not to say that this sour wasn't just top notch. This is one of the best sours I've ever had.
Oh yeah, this is great. It was just, I agree. The Evicted, the Lazarite, the Odd 13 are just so good on their own.
I guess I'll go as far as to say is Evicted would be, I guess, a third. I'd say Cherry Stout first, Lazarite and Odd 13 for second, and then Evicted third. I like the Evicted though. Like, if I was trying to not get drunk, I'd be drinking the Evicted.
It's a silver medal third.
So, Jess, I think you got plenty of time to think about it. You want to give us a breakdown of what you enjoyed about these beers?
Falling forward.
I really, really like the sour. I love sours, and the initial taste with the aftertaste both knocked me out of the water. Really, really good. I did like the cherry coffee. It's cherry chocolate stout. I like that one a lot. But I would probably say that's my second favorite because I like the sour so much. I like the cherry stout because it was juicy and rich, and it was not super heavy, but it was still filling. My least favorite, probably, I didn't really like Evicted. It was too bland for me, and I'm not a huge fan of IPAs, so I didn't drink very much of the Lazarite, but the initial taste was not bad, and I could definitely say that to other people who did enjoy IPAs, I could definitely see why they liked it, because it is juicy and it's extremely flavorful, but I just don't really like the extremely like hoppy tasting stuff.
Excellent analysis. I would agree with every single thing that you said.
I feel like I fell short on my analysis after
so
listening to
sorry.
hers.
No, damn, Jess fucking killed it. Well, thanks again, guys. Austin, Creed, you've been on here a couple times. Creed, I
Always a pleasure.
I don't really know your beer drinking history. So it's fun sitting here with you drinking so many different beers and hearing your analysis. Austin and I have been drinking beers together for a year and a half now, so I know what Austin likes, and I'm ready for his analysis. Jess, it's been fun with you going to different breweries and now sitting here doing this. This was great. The Evicted to the Lazarite to the sour to the stout. There was a huge combination of flavors tonight, so it was fun.
And to be honest with you, this is my first time trying out every single beer since I've been on here. Every episode you had me on, it's my first time having those beers. So, like, when I go out and I look at beers, I'm like, which one should I grab? Because
You've got a better idea now, just from trying them out.
It's not that. It's just that I don't know which one you guys have already tried out here. So, everything here is like a new experience to me. Like, if I bring something here, it's like, he brought this pussy ass beer. And I don't want to be that guy. I'm like, okay, hold on, let me get a couple episodes in.
But you're getting good enough now that you saw the stout and you're like, now hold up. I remember last time one of these bitches came out on the field, I wasn't a big fan. So you started looking at it and you're like, oh, I ain't gonna like this. And you knew it before you even tried it. You're like, I ain't gonna like this shit. I know it.
And seeing that and hearing that makes me happy, because he's not only learning his palate, but he's learning the taste of other people's palate, and he's bringing that appreciation forward. I don't hear him going, oh no, dude, don't drink that. It's more like, oh yeah, you enjoy that? Cool. But I'm on this.
I think, and I'm not an expert by any means at all. Austin, no offense, you're not either. But once you start to hear other people describe the beers that you're drinking, you start to associate. You're like, I get what you're saying. Like, when you say that this tastes like that, I'm getting what you're trying to say. And it's we're getting philosophical, folks. It's language.
Fun.
It's language. The moment, when people are able to find the right way to communicate with each other, you drink a beer and you say, I like it. Why do you like it? I don't know. You drink a beer you don't like, and you're like, why don't you like it? And you're like, I don't know. And that's something that we're kind of working on here is when you say that you don't like a beer or you do like a beer, you're able to ascertain exactly what it is about it that you don't like. So it's been fun. I love having dudes like Austin who've been drinking a lot of different beers, and they're able to have a really complex diagnosis of what they're drinking. But then it's equally as enriching to listen to folks who haven't drank as much and listen to how they try to describe their beers and how it tastes to them. So thanks again, Creed. I know you've done it a couple times. Jess, thank you for coming on. This is your first time. I'm sure we'll do it again. Brews with Dudettes.
If I may interject real quick, that latter part you said is one of the reasons why I'm enjoying more and more being part of this, is hearing people who have sampled as much as I am coming in and sampling and hearing their intake and notes on it, because it really reminds me of it and gives me that nostalgia and gets me to start thinking about the beers I'm drinking in a different way again. And it's a lot of fun. I really appreciate it.
The totally untainted opinion.
Yes.
Like sometimes people, even when I didn't drink very much, you'd come up with the very silly ways to describe the beer, and the people around you laugh about it. But the people who drink beer, they're like, okay, like, that was kind of ridiculous, but I do know what you're talking about, and I do know what you're getting at. And it's fun. It's a fun collaborative effort working with everybody, trying to understand the beer better, and trying to just enjoy different things. It's hilarious. Everyone just thinks it's beer. They think it's that easy, but you spend a little bit of time with it, and you understand that all four of the beers that we drank tonight is just beer to someone who doesn't know.
Yeah.
A sour beer don't mean nothing to the clerk. a stout don't mean nothing to the clerk. You know, a lot of people don't really think about those things, and all you really need is a basic bit of understanding of the language to be able to move forward with it. Damn, we're rambling. We're not going to go too much further. We're about to hit the hour mark. Once again, I've already said it 2 or 3 times. Thank all 3 of you for coming on tonight. Thank you, everybody who has been listening to us, liking our statuses, liking our page, sharing the podcast, inviting your friends to join the page. That's a big deal, guys. If you've got the moment, share it with your friends. And just send them a little message like, hey, dude, I know that you like good beer. I got some friends that are drinking new good beers every day, so maybe you can find a beer that you haven't drank that you might like. We
or
love
if you're
that
just
shit.
breaking into new beer.
This is a good way for you to kind of get an idea of a lot of the different things that are going on. Shit, I mean, this is episode 7. We're talking about 5 to 6 beers. So we've drank about 40 beers just on this show that are all different, and we're trying to get good analysis of what they taste like. But we're babbling again. Thank you for paying attention. Thank you to the Journey into Comics Network, Nate Phillips, Brandon Stone. Thank you guys for giving us the medium to talk on. If you haven't checked the network out, go to Journey into Comics on Facebook. You can get a link to their website and their Podbean and the Patreon. I'm a Patreon for the Journey into Networks. I was before I joined because I just believed in it. You give $1 or $2 or $3, and it helps them pay for the cost to run the site. It's totally worth it. There's 10 different shows on the network right now, including Brews with Dudes. And there's 9 other shows that cover everything else. We talk about beer. Journey into Comics talks about comics. There's a show about video games. There's a show about movies. There's a show about books. There's a show about everything that you could ever possibly fucking want to hear. So check them all out. Thanks again to the Journey into Comics Network for having us. Thank you, everybody, for listening to this tonight. Thank you to the guests. And we will see you next week on Brews with Dudes, episode 8. And until then, drink good beer. I ain't got nothing else. There's no catch line. There's no. That's all we got. That's all we got. So we'll see you next time, guys.
You finally got him to do it.